People in China are being seduced and used by foreign spies. The best solution, according to Chinese authorities, is not to trust anyone. Except, of course, the Chinese Communist Party. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Mark your calendars, my friends. On Saturday, October 5th at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, I will be hosting a special live stream celebrating you for helping us reach 2 million subscribers. And you'll want to be there. There will be some big announcements about the future of the show, and Matt Shelley and I will do something we've never done before. Again, that's Saturday, October 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. See you there. And now, on with the show. China is in danger. The Chinese Communist Party is sounding the alarm. According to recent social media posts by the Chinese Ministry of State Security, foreign agents intent on China's destruction are bringing in all sorts of nefarious things. Fentanyl, like the CCP does to America? Oh no. Even worse. Things like pens containing hidden cameras, insects that are actually tiny spy drones, and alligator snapping turtles meant to wreak havoc on local freshwater ecosystems. It's awful. And while we should all pray for the safe delivery of Chinese riverbanks from foreign turtles, the Ministry of State Security would have you know that this is all just the tip of the iceberg. Foreign spies are everywhere, trying to steal core scientific research, heist national secrets, and posing a threat to the country's rare earth mineral industry. But it's not just the foreign spies that are the problem, it's the Chinese people. Because an unready citizen is a willing accomplice just waiting to happen. It might start with a foreign agent creating chance encounters and initiating conversations to gain their target's favor and trust by acting helpful and approachable. But they will bait the unwitting citizen with things like dining invitations and sightseeing tours to understand their target's personality, weaknesses, and hobbies. For those targets who seem interested in cash, the spies will express a willingness to pay a large amount of money to buy internal information. The MSS has warned that behind these lucrative rewards lie numerous traps, and beneath the sophisticated questions lurk hidden schemes. The clear message being, be wary of anyone who seems to want to get to know you. Unfortunately, underneath their trench coats, the spies hide a dangerous power even stronger than bribes and flattery, a power that not even a creepy comment from the Ministry of State Security can dispel. The power of seduction. The keeper of journalistic virtue, aka the Global Times, has published several stories in recent months about the irresistible charm of foreign agents, like this one about a military enthusiast living close to a military port who was approached online by a pretty girl. The two of them allegedly became intimate friends, after which he willingly shared names and photos of the military port when she asked for them. You know, regular pillow talk. That was nice. We should do this again sometime. Can you give me intel on your military base with names and photos? But unbeknownst to him, the so-called girl was a foreign spy. Shocking. I thought all girls wanted detailed schematics of military intel as a birthday gift. Then there's this one, about a researcher at a scientific institution who was approached by a woman at a text exhibition. He was captivated by her beauty and was emotionally touched by her. Then they quickly fell in love. After that, the researcher did whatever she requested, catering to all her needs, including, apparently, a need for instant access to classified documents he had downloaded from his institution. It's always nice when your significant other takes an interest in your work, except when that interest is, hey, can you show me these super top secret classified documents so I can take pics and send it to my friends? With foreign agents seducing unsuspecting Chinese left and right, the Ministry of State Security obviously had to step up. So earlier this month, the agency told students with access to sensitive data to be wary of beautiful women and handsome guys who could lure them into spying. For them, they hear sexy singles in your area and think, watch out, they're coming for us. It's also said about these devious hot people that they take advantage of the characteristics of young students' strong curiosity and willingness to try new things. So for any Chinese students out there watching, stop being curious and stop trying new things. Chinese national security depends on it. But in all seriousness, the Chinese government's push for people to be more cautious of spies is starting to get just a little bit out of hand. For more than a year now, the Chinese authorities have sounded the spy alarm louder and louder with the stern message for the Chinese people that foreign spies are everywhere. Take this sinister video, for example, that was released by the MSS in April to mark the country's National Security Education Day. In it, we're presented with this shady-looking guy who's hell-bent on selling out China to foreign powers. He could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. And the only way to stop him is for everyone, from law enforcement agents to average Joes and Wongs to seniors and even kids. All of China's more than 1.4 billion people to stay alert, on guard, and vigilant at all times. Look out, they're right behind you! That was a test, and you failed. You'd better be even more paranoid. Videos like these have become a big part of the MSS's transformation in recent years from a shadowy organization without any discernible public face into a highly visible presence in public life. In Chinese cities, posters and slogans promoting national security are now a common sight on sidewalks, subway trains, campuses, and billboards. And on social media, the agency commands a massive following, with nearly daily commentaries, short videos, and comic strips sounding the alarm about supposedly ubiquitous threats to the country. The ministry has also set up a website and a hotline where people are encouraged to report any suspected threats to state security. But the MSS is not the only Chinese authority pushing ahead on this front. In May, the government put into force a revised state secrets law, and last year, amendments to China's anti-espionage law were passed. Both steps enhance the government's oversight capabilities and control businesses and their employees, especially regarding work secrets, as well as the transfer of any information related to national security. I feel like they're one step away from mandating chaperones on every date to make sure there aren't any pillow talk secrets spilled. At the same time, groups such as bankers and civil servants are now facing constraints on private travel and are having their foreign connections scrutinized. This invasion by anti-espionage into the realm of everyday work and business has raised alarms, especially in the international business community, at a time when the Chinese government is trying to woo foreign investment to help revitalize a slowing economy. Except they think the foreign businesses they so crave house spies as well. Already, a senior Japanese employee working at a Japanese pharmaceutical company in China has been arrested on charges of espionage. And police raids were conducted last year on the offices of a foreign due diligence firm and 2 consultancies. In these cases, the companies were accused of posing a major risk to China's national security by trying to obtain various types of sensitive information. Now, given all that, I'm sure foreign businesses just can't wait to work with China. This is the first time risk assessment in business involved the risk of being black-bagged and never seen again. This has thrown parts of the Chinese private sector into disarray, since due diligence firms and consultancies are a necessary part of the business ecosystem, and they need access to information to do their jobs. According to the director of the Asia Policy Program at the University of Texas, this new anti-espionage push is a sign of the increasing securitization of Chinese life and society under Chinese leader Xi Jinping, where an incredibly wide array of issues can be viewed as threats to national security. Foreign businesses, threat to national security. Hot people, threat to national security. Saying Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh, clearly a threat to national security. This already seems to be having a disconcerting impact on the Chinese people. For example, a young woman was encouraged by commentators to contact the MSS last year after she posted on the Instagram-like platform Xiaohongshu that her boyfriend could not remember the exact lyrics and tune of China's national anthem. After all, what loyal and patriotic Chinese guy doesn't know the national anthem through and through? So she eventually called the MSS's hotline to report him as a suspected spy. Find someone that loves you so much, they turn you into the government for having a bad memory. And the consequences are not isolated to Chinese society. With all that focus on espionage and national security, a Western intelligence official told the BBC earlier this year that China now has around 600,000 people working on intelligence and security, more than any other state in the world. And many of these have set their sights on threats from the world outside China, where, ironically, Chinese espionage is now on the rise. It's the first rule of communism. Always accuse your enemy of what you're already doing. According to an FBI counterintelligence official, the #1 goal of covert activities abroad is to protect the position of the Chinese Communist Party, with regime stability being the #1 goal. That includes delivering fuel for China's struggling economy. So Chinese spies prioritize the theft of Western technology. When they get the tech, they readily share it with Chinese state-run companies in a way that the West's intelligence agencies don't do with their own domestic firms, according to the BBC sources. Western political leaders and companies have actually been fully aware of this for a long time, but they wanted to keep the focus on securing access to China's huge market, rather than confronting the security risk it poses. But now the issues have grown too big to be ignored. And it has also expanded well beyond industrial espionage. In a report from last year, US-based NGO Freedom House found that China's government is the world's most prolific perpetrator of transnational repression. This repression has involved establishing more than 100 covert police stations across the world that have been used as bases from where the Chinese authorities can persuade Chinese citizens abroad to return to China. Chinese transnational repression has also targeted Chinese minorities overseas, such as Uyghurs, Tibetans living in exile abroad, as well as Hong Kongers. Covert activities have also been directed at Western politics, with arrests of Chinese spies in the UK, Belgium, and Germany. Additionally, there is recent evidence of Chinese election interference in places like Canada, as well as in the Taiwanese elections held earlier this year. And in the US, just this month, a former CIA officer was sentenced to 10 years in prison for spying for China. So overall, Chinese agents abroad are quite busy. Maybe all that stuff about camera pens, spy insects, and alligator snapping turtles was actually just part of a wish list for the next intelligence operation. But look, I know that when it comes to espionage and counter-espionage, there's no saints. One of the world's worst-kept secrets is probably that everyone spies on everyone else. What's shocking here is not the existence of espionage, but the extreme level that Chinese authorities have taken it to, both on the international front and especially on the home front. The counter-espionage campaign that has rolled out through China in recent years is essentially an attempt to tear apart Chinese society by convincing people not to trust anyone, certainly not foreigners, but also not even the people closest to them, as they might be spies working for foreign forces without them knowing it. In fact, the only person that a Chinese person is told that they can truly trust are the Chinese authorities and, surprise, surprise, the CCP. For the government, stories about beautiful foreign spies seducing Chinese people or alligator snapping turtles that can lay waste to ecosystems have proven to be less of a cause for concern and more of a cause for celebration, as they provide the perfect excuse to tighten its already firm grip around the country. Oh, and before I go, if you were watching this to the end hoping that there would eventually be footage of an army of badass alligator snapping turtles going on a crazy rampage somewhere, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. But I have heard about this documentary featuring fighting turtles living in the sewers of New York that you might want to check out instead. They're not exactly spies, but ninjas are sneaky too. China Uncensored would not be possible without the support of viewers like you. The crowdfunding website patreon.com/China Uncensored. And as a thank you to everyone who gives, I might answer one of your questions at the end of the show. Today's comes from Raymond. Hello, Chris. This is a broad question, but I find it quite interesting. How do you view or estimate, depending on Trump-Harris becoming president of the US, the tensions between China and Taiwan? It is mostly speculation, but still somehow interesting. Highly likely Trump is going to put China in its place, but I highly doubt Harris is going to do anything that softens or soothes the tension. That's a very interesting question, Raymond, but it requires some speculation. If Trump is reelected and his second administration picks up from where the last one left off, then I'd imagine the US will continue to get tough on China. One of the really important things the Trump administration did on China was to call it out as an ideological struggle with Marxism-Leninism. It wasn't just competition the way other administrations have described it. It's a serious existential threat to the US. For Harris' presidency, I need to do some speculation. Despite claims that Biden is a bought and paid for Chinese asset by some on the political spectrum, the Biden administration was actually pretty tough on China, sanctioning officials, cutting off critical technology, working with allies. The biggest pitfall was that there was no focus on the ideology. And as the administration went on, it seemed like the engagement school was gaining more influence. In other words, China is a competitor we have to work with, rather than a communist regime dedicated to destroying America. But what the Biden administration did is not necessarily what a Harris administration would be like. Now, she's talked tough on China. Harris has said she will ensure that America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century. But she's also said she wants to de-risk, not decouple from China. I have no idea what that means. As far as support for Taiwan or America's allies in the South China Sea, she of course says she'll back them. Even as senator, Harris co-sponsored bills about the persecution of Uyghurs in Hong Kong. Her vice president, Tim Walz, has a long history with China. He served on the Congressional Executive Commission on China, which monitors human rights and rule of law developments in China, and he co-sponsored a resolution about the CCP's forced organ harvesting. Basically, from what I can tell, despite how divided America is politically right now, there is a general consensus on China and the Chinese Communist Party. The right will say Harris and Walz are communists that will sell America out to China. And the left will say Trump is a fascist who loves dictators, but it seems like we're past the worst of U.S. policy towards China, which had been both a failure of Republicans and Democrats. So I'm optimistic? Sounds weird to say it out loud. Thanks for your question and your support. And before YouTube sends you off to some random video, instead click on this video I made that I think you'll really enjoy from my gaming channel, where I talk about Hegelian philosophy in the context of the video game Fear and Hunger 2. Clicking it also helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And click that orange button to join me on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.